Hey everyone, my name is Drew. Welcome to Novelitic. Today I'm going to take you through part 2 of my April wrap-up. So in case you weren't aware, April was National Poetry Month, so of course I had to read a ton of poetry. I read a total of 6 different collections. The majority of it I read on my Kindle, which is ridiculous because I have a huge physical TBR. But reading poetry last month made me remember how much I really enjoy reading poetry. So I do think I'm going to keep up this pace throughout the rest of the year. And I'm so excited because I enjoyed reading every collection of poetry that I read this past month. So first I read Next, New Poems by Lucille Clifton. It was great. Also, I just want to say I don't always rate my poetry because if you watched my poetry physical TBR, which I'll link up top, all poetry books are a part of my physical TBR, because I always go back through them. Sometimes I don't have thoughts the first time, or my thoughts are really different every time I read it. So I don't always feel comfortable giving it a rating, but I absolutely enjoyed this. It specifically discusses birth and death and spirituality and womanhood and whatnot, and race, and the way how it was done, it's separated into different sections. We're all next or next and singing, and all of the poetry was beautiful. One of my favorites is My Dream About Being White, and this one is this a part of, this is an unnamed one, but I think it encapsulates a lot of similar things. So My Dream About Being White. Hey music and me, only white hair, a flutter of fall leaves circling my perfect line of a nose, no lips, no behind. Hey, white me, and I'm wearing white history, but there's no future in those clothes, so I take them off and wake up dancing. I don't know. Language is beautiful. The next book I read was Ariel by Sylvia Plath. This was another great collection. I borrowed my partner's copy, and man, I need to get my own. It was really good. I related a lot in terms of womanhood and depression and anxiety, and it just, I wish I had it with me. That's the hardest part, for me at least, by reading ebooks. This one I did have my own copy, but it wasn't my own. But not having my own copies, I can't mark them up, and it's ugh. But no, it was so enjoyable. This one I actually did rate, and I gave it 5 stars. Next collection I read on my Kindle was When I Grow Up, I Want to Be a Further List of Possibilities by Chen Chen. It explores being a queer Asian American male and all the different things that they want to accomplish, as well as what they feel they might not be able to. Again, it was beautifully written. I did not rate it because I do want to reread it again and again. It was so nicely done. I loved the mix of free verse and the actual thematic elements involving race and being queer in America. The next poetry collection I read was Obit by Victoria Chang. I believe this was fairly popular a couple months ago, or maybe it just came out a couple months ago, I'm not sure. But this was another one that was incredibly impactful. Each section of it, which I made an error. I started reading it first on my computer, and then I switched over to reading on my Kindle, which I'm glad I switched over because the formatting was weird on the computer. But each poem started with blank died on this day, and my mom or my faith or my hope, whatever it was that they were talking about, and it packed a punch. It was good. And another one that I want to reread and own. It really explores loss and how we deal with loss, and loss even in further, how do we deal with that loss with younger generations. Again, you should pick it up. I'm just really glad everything I read in terms of poetry was fantastic. Sometimes you can read some stuff and it's This next poetry collection is by a queer indigenous author, that is Tommy Pico, and that was Nature Poem. It basically explores how he can't, it's almost satiric, I think it's supposed to be satire, how he's not able to actually write a nature poem despite, the stereotype of indigenous folks being so in touch with nature. I don't want to speak too much on it because, again, I am not a queer indigenous man, but I really enjoyed the poetry collection. It's another one I want to reread over and over again. And the last collection of poems I read was by Bridget DeVoe, I believe it's how you pronounce the last name. And that is Soft Thorns, volume, well, I don't know if this one's called volume 1, but volume 2, I have the arc for volume 2, so I have to read volume 1. But this one is a collection of very short poems. It's very reminiscent of Rupi Kaur and discussing, you know, being a woman and heartbreak, and particularly like in sexism and whatnot. It was good. It was probably my least favorite out of all of them, but I did enjoy reading it. I think at a certain point in my life, that's definitely something I need to read. I was actually a little frustrated. Like, I know a lot of reviews were saying, oh, it's a ripoff of Kaur, but my thing is, like, people borrow form and whatnot all the time in writing. Like, there's literally like, the like biggest piece of advice we get is to look at other people's writing, or people's writing that we like, writers we aspire to encapsulate parts of their style. So I don't think there's an issue with that. I don't think anyone has any sort of patent on the type of poetry that they write. Overall, it was enjoyable, but yeah, those are my 6 poetry collections, and I am super excited to keep reading poetry in May. So yeah, let me know if you read any poetry during National Poetry Month. Let me know if you've ever read any of these, because I would love to talk about them. Please don't forget to subscribe if you want to, as well as give a thumbs up. Until next time, bye.